Rolling in the Dream, an Inception fanfiction. Hello, everyone. This is my third fanfiction, but the first one that made it out of my journal. I hope that you enjoy reading it, except the part that you aren't supposed to enjoy reading, which you should not enjoy, stupid fucking winky happy face. My favorite movie, as you can probably guess by my username, is the masterpiece Inception by Christopher Nolan, the best director of all time. I especially like the parts with the dreams, except the ones with Yusuf in them, because he's stupid and boring and really poorly characterized, and I don't even know why he's in the movie, OMG. My favorite character was Eames, who looks really awesome inside the dream when he's blowing up stuff on the building, but I don't like him in the gay way, okay? Anyways, here's my aver. And I hope you enjoy it. These characters are not mine, and I do not intend to make money off of them. Rate and leave reviews, please. In a steam-filled locker room deep within the bowels of Christopher Nolan High School. Well, all right. This is already looking to be great. Eames heaved a sigh. He also heaved aside his towel, tossing it casually so that it landed in a heap by the door. He walked over to a mirror and took in his appearance. While some might have been distracted by his chiseled muscles and large, soulful eyes, he could only see flaws.
Keeping a perfect physical physique is so easy in the dream world,
he sighed as the steam lovingly caressed his supple calves. The expensive mirror reflected his perfect visage of masculine beauty, a visage with which he was entirely displeased. He moaned softly, running his hands slowly through his luscious wavy locks.
Why can't my body be perfect in the real world like it is in the dream?
Stifling a sob, Eames moved back to his towel, desperate to cover up the body he so despised. He rewrapped the towel around his waist, riding it 6 inches below his belly button, and moved over to the shower. Hopefully, the steamy hot water would be enough to wash away his fears. He knew that he shouldn't go back to the dream. He knew that it would suck him in for longer than he wanted, but at least he would feel comfortable in his own skin. Right? As he rubbed the body lotion over the bookcase he called his pectorals. That was a beautiful sentence. I'm sorry, I just need to take a second to just kind of take that in. He called his pectoral muscles a bookshelf. That's simply stunning. Eames second-guessed his own motivations. Was this an addiction? Was he growing drunk on the power of the dream? He poured the pearly, scintillating shampoo into his hand, then massaged it gently into his hair, careful not to cause any split ends. As he washed his well-defined jawline, he pondered his next move. What to do? Meanwhile, in detention, Cobb was busy carving an angle into his eraser using the corner of a desk. I think that was supposed to be Angel, but, into the corner of the desk. Arthur in the desk next to him hadn't talked to him in hours, ever since they'd gotten caught stealing the answers to next week's chemistry test out of their teacher's dreams. At least the principal hadn't found their backup dream jumper, the more advanced one that looked just like a cell phone. They were still safe there, right? So why was Arthur so upset? No, well, didn't really bear any thinking about right now. They were due to get out of detention any minute now. Suddenly, a younger girl burst through the door, long hair flicking through the air as she turned, enraged, to her 2 upperclassmen friends. It was Iradni. I don't know how to pronounce that name. I haven't seen this movie in like 3 years. Is it really that old now? It's 3 years, 2 years? I haven't seen this movie since it was in theaters, so if I butcher any names, I'm sorry. I mean, it's fanfiction's gonna butcher the movie anyway, but I'm just gonna make it worse. So my apology right now. It was
How could you get caught?
she cried.
You know we need that dream jumper to fight against Yusuf's gang, right? Why in God's name did you think it would be a good idea to use it for something so petty?
Arthur just shrugged and looked at Cobb.
Told you she'd say that,
he said. Cobb stuck his tongue out at Iradni, who rolled her eyes and crossed her arms, flouncing and causing her skirt to bounce in a way that caught both of the young boys' eyes. Come on, she huffed, dragging the 2 boys behind her through the door that led them out of the detention room. Let's go. We need to get out of here before... Suddenly... Sorry, that burp was a burp, and that will be better than the entire fanfiction. All right. Suddenly, the wall next to them exploded, sending plaster and plywood flying everywhere. Standing in the cold could of plaster dust was Yusuf. He was flanked by 2 Asian cheerleaders on each side of him, clinging to his powerfully muscled arms like bubblegum stuck to a shoe.
So, Cobb, you thought that you could steal the answers to...
I'm just gonna assume that he has a really bad, I don't know, Asian. I saw the word Asian, so I'm gonna roll with it.
You thought that you could steal the answers to the chemistry test using your Siri dream jumping technology? When will you learn that sometimes you should take a more direct route?
He hefted the MK-48 he was carrying meaningfully. Yeah, we saw the answers 2 days ago, said the cheerleader on the right. She popped her gum disdainfully, pulling a sheet of paper out from its storage place underneath her incredibly short skirt, which was really just made her look immature. Some people have no sense of decency. Still, the move distracted Cobb and Arthur, leaving only a Dan paying attention to the issue at hand.
Are you saying that you stole the answers?
She asked sharply. Cobb and Arthur glanced at each other, aroused from their revelry. Duh! The second cheerleader rolled her eyes. That's just what was just said. Cobb and Arthur were now smiling hugely. Smiling hugely. That's not even a thing.
See?
He said, voice loud. I told you they were cheating. Suddenly, the room seemed to start to dissolve. You fool! Yeah, no. He's got the bad Japanese.
You're a fool,
shouted Yusuf.
It was a trap.
It was a trap. A trap it was indeed. The room continued to dissolve until the inhabitants could see nothing but a white void. And then, run! Cobb shouted. Yusuf and the cheerleaders were disoriented to find themselves laying on the floor of a closet in the school. Yusuf's MK-48 was gone, replaced by a much smaller clock tucked into his waistband. Smaller, but still dangerous. He had projection problems. The Asians staggered to their feet just in time to see 3 familiar shapes run down the hallway and turn a corner.
You got that on tape, right?
Huffed Dan to the boys as they raced through the hallway.
Who do you think I am, Yusuf?
Quipped Cobb, waving the recording device happily. Say, chimed in Arthur, looking a little concerned. Since when did we have green tiling in the halls? Cobb tossed his head back in laughter.
Oh, yeah, left a little surprised.
Bang! Cobb sprawled to the floor, his brains blown out against the wall, leaving a horrifying red splatter of skull fragments and blood on a once beautiful mural depicting the school's prized football stadium. Arthur jumped, shouting in terror. Don't worry, Arthur, Ariana assured him. We'll be out of here soon. He stared at her, confused and shell-shocked. What did she know that he didn't? And then he noticed the room dissolving around him, walls twisted and crumbling into oblivion. The mural cracked and was swept away like the dudes in that movie, The Perfect Storm, replaced by the white void swirling all around them. Arthur could see the next bullet hurtling towards them. Reflex made him duck, but it was ripped away by the void before it even got close. Adrian cackled with glee, and he woke up. Damn it, guys. Tell me next time we go 2 layers down, cried Arthur. Aaron Dandale giggled at him, still giggly.
He's waking up,
Cobb reminded her. Time to go. Kicking Yusuf in the gut once, just for a measure, Arthur left the room with his 2 classmates, ready to go print a story about the quarterback's new cheating ring, and felt a hand grasp around his ankle. Oh, shit! He cried as he tripped, barely managing to worm his way free from the huge Asian boy's crushing grasp. He chased after his 2 comrades who had taken off running. Yusuf was right on their tail, crashing around corners. Arthur had an idea, more of a desperate gambit, really. He whipped off his pants, revealing well-toned calves covered in a light dusting of hair, and threw them at Yusuf's feet. Distracted and uncoordinated, Yusuf tripped on Arthur's pants and went down on his face. The trio beat feet. What? Towards the nearest place Cobb could think of to hide until Yusuf gave up looking. The boys' locker room. What? Cried Aaron Dandale. I can't go in the boys' locker room. There might be buds in there.
It's the last place Yusuf would think to look,
ordained Arthur. Come on. Pouting heavily in a way that accentuated all of her best features. Aaron Dandale half-heartedly protested, but it was true. They really had nowhere else to hide. So in they went. She ducked around the corner that separated the entrance from the showers, looked around for Cobb and saw Eames, naked, but for a towel more of a loincloth, really, the tears on his face hidden by the shower water pouring down on top of his chiseled physique. Eames was shocked to see his classmates enter the room. He screamed in shock as he saw Cobb, Arthur, and Adriana enter the room.
Don't look at me!
He cried, tears pouring down his face faster than ever. Slowly, carefully, Arthur approached his classmate.
Eames, don't cry. Why wouldn't we want to look at you?
Eames covered his chest, paralyzed with fear.
You're beautiful, Eames.
Arthur intoned, his eyes slowly tracing over the other boy's chiseled abs, his heroic jawline, his muscular arms.
You really think so?
Asked Ames, the tears of anguish transforming into tears of joy.
Of course.
Said Arthur.
Then, prove it.
Ames blubbered through the downpour. Arthur slowly, surely reached out, staring deeply into those liquid, opalescent eyes. Those eyes that could suck you right in if you stared for too long. He put his hand on Ames' chin, pulled his head slowly up, and, to be continued, but not really, because the author said a bunch of stuff that I don't care about. So, this is the end of the fanfiction. That's probably supposed to be more chapters, but you know what? It's only one chapter, so thank you for watching. Please check out my other videos. There are also things